All right, how about my panelists? You guys all ready to jump in?
We're ready.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So I'm really excited to be here today, and thanks everyone for joining to learn more about managing service disruptions on the fly and how Capital Metro, Tahoe Transportation District, and North County Transit District are staying agile with Swiftly's service adjustments. So let's get started by taking a look at our agenda for today. So we're going to go through some introductions of our panelists. We're going to cover the service areas of our panelists and see where their transit agencies are, talk about some of the challenges that they faced, how they've used service adjustments to manage those challenges, and then we're going to do Q&A. So as you guys are aware, this is a Zoom webinar, and I want to just make sure everyone's comfortable with the Q&A functionality. So you should see at the bottom of your screen a little chat bubble that says Q&A. Feel free to type your questions in there, and we'll be monitoring it throughout the chats, throughout the webinar. So let's practice. Some of our attendees, feel free to drop into the Q&A the location where you're calling from. All right. Tampa, Florida, Seattle, San Antonio, Texas, Florida. Oh, I'm hailing from Florida. So hi there, Lena, former Fort Lauderdale person here. Happy to see you. All right, Phoenix. So I see you guys have got the hang of it. So feel free to drop your questions in there as we talk, and we're going to jump in. We're going to start with introductions. I'm so lucky to be joined by this incredible cast from all over, from Austin, Texas to Lake Tahoe, down to Southern California and North San Diego County. So let's start with you, Olivia. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Olivia Jones with Capital Metro. I'm the manager of bus service delivery, and that includes oversight of bus, rapid transit, rail, public safety, UT shuttle service, and special services through emergency management through the Operations Control Center.
Wonderful. And next up we have Damon.
Good morning, I'm Damon Blythe. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for bus here at North County Transit District. So I have oversight over fixed route, paratransit, and demand response services.
All right, and last but not least, Tara.
Hello, I'm Tara Steyer, Transit Operations Manager with Tahoe Transportation District. I manage paratransit, fixed route, and commuter services for a bi-state agency.
Awesome. So welcome to all of you again. Thanks for joining us this morning. And my name is Jennifer. I'm a principal planning strategist with Swiftly. I'm a transportation planner by trade. I spent most of my career in Florida, so I'm very excited to see some Florida folks here. And my role at Swiftly is to listen to our agency partners and help them find the best solutions for their networks. So for those of you that are not familiar with what Swiftly is, we're the first big data platform for public transit. We help transit agencies use their data to make decisions, to inform their passengers, and to basically operate more efficiently. So that's what we do. I want to learn a little bit more about each of you all's service areas. So let's set the stage a bit, talk about your service area, and in particular, what you've been going through in the last year as a result of COVID. So Olivia, we're going to start with you and Cap Metro.
So Cap Metro is in Austin, Texas. And if you've been watching the national news within the last 30 days, Austin and the Central Texas area went through an extreme cold weather event in the middle of Texas, which was very unusual. Our service area includes Travis and Williamson counties, and in addition to Austin, about 7 or 8 additional cities, and including the areas that I mentioned before with the BRTs, the rails, the UT shuttles, and the specials. We also have paratransit and demand response service. That's just not the area that I manage. And then most recently in November, the municipality approved a referendum to expand the services of bus, rail, and BRTs with a partnership with Austin Public Transit and Project Connect. So big things are coming to Texas, but with the onset of COVID and I think they called it a snowopolis for our area for the extreme cold weather event that we had. We had a lot of opportunities to get very skilled in the use of the flexibility of Swiftly.
Great. Can't wait to hear more about it. Damon, let's jump to you next. Tell us a little bit about your service area.
Yeah, so we're in San Diego County. There's 18 cities in San Diego County. So we serve 8 of those 18 cities, the northernmost 8, plus areas of the unincorporated San Diego County. We have 5 modes total here. So there's Coaster, which is commuter rail that runs between San Diego and Oceanside. And then there's Sprinter, which is like light rail, but it uses a diesel engine instead of overhead wires. That runs between Oceanside and Escondido. And then we have our fixed route bus that we call Breeze, paratransit we call Lyft, and our on-demand service we call Flex. So like everyone else, we've been severely impacted by COVID. Ridership on all of our modes dropped considerably. Coaster was hardest hit because it carries the passengers that are most able to work from home. So ridership on Coaster plummeted about 90%, but our fixed route bus is holding about 50 to 60% ridership loss. Because those are most of the people that are still trying to get to work, those truly transit dependent customers that we have.
Yeah, and I'm sure that ridership loss has been seen across agencies. So definitely understand that's a challenge. And Tara, let's hear about Tahoe Transportation District in my neck of the woods.
Hello. So Tahoe Transportation District operates a bi-state transit system offering local and paratransit services to South Lake Tahoe, California, and State Line, Nevada. So we're in 2 states, 5 counties. We have commuter services then that extended to Northern Nevada, including Carson City and the communities of the Carson Valley. So of course, Tahoe is well known as a travel destination. So both international and drive-up vacationers. We're a region of world-class skiing, and we get a lot of snowfall, sometimes upwards of 10 to 12 feet annually. Luckily, that does not come in one storm, usually. So we really enjoy the snow in the winter, and then in the summer, we have a lot of visitation because of our lower temperatures. And of course, the lake is a huge enticement for people living in those lower elevations, coming up to escape the heat, and in recent years, escaping the wildfires. So like all agencies, our ridership did take a hit in the spring due to COVID. However, it recovered pretty rapidly in late summer into the fall. And I think that speaks to the visitor that wanted to find those safer outdoor activities.
Definitely. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And I really want to dive in a little more, into some of these things that we've talked about. There's, a few common themes popping up. Obviously, COVID at the top of our minds and reduction in ridership. And the weather apparently is causing a lot of uncertainty. So let's talk about some of the challenges your agencies have faced in light of COVID and all the other things that are happening and how those led you to service adjustments. So Olivia, we love hearing the Cap Metro story. So tell us a little bit about some of your goals that were maybe thwarted last year and the challenges you're facing to achieving those goals.
So every transit agency had the goal to increase ridership and improve on-time performance. We all sing that same song. So for the most part, the goal to increase ridership became an obstacle in the world of COVID. And so we had to begin managing service with the mindset of maintaining physical distancing. So managing passenger loads became critical to determining what service we were going to operate and where and how much. So as a part of that, our commuter riders are choice riders. And so they, as other folks said, are more apt to work from home. So that ridership declined significantly, about 90%. So maybe about 10% of operations, but about 53% of our transit dependent customers were still trying to get to work and get to food in places of healthcare. So cleanliness became a primary objective. So employees had the fear of coming to work and catching COVID, and passengers had the fear of wondering if it was safe to get on the bus and if riding in an enclosed bus was going to create an issue. So our ability to make observations inside the vehicles became part of our daily routine. So our service monitoring techniques went from having someone inside the bus to actually doing live look-ins in the vehicle using our camera technology. And we made service adjustment decisions based on that. So we were able to add trips depending on loads and making decisions on where those trips would go into service. Passenger boardings, we went to optional rear door boardings, touchless fare collection with validators installed on several of the vehicles. And then even the way we went about holding meetings and collaborating became different as this platform is now just a regular everyday part of our lives when it used to be the exception.
That's very true. Yeah. So, I mean, Damon, I imagine you have a lot of similar challenges trying to serve commuters and essential workers. So what are some of the things that you were looking forward to that kind of shifted gears last year? And how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah. So Olivia stole all of my answers. No. Yeah, we faced a lot of those similar challenges, especially with we had several scares where operators were sort of incorrectly informed that potentially they were not considered essential workers, so they didn't have to come to work, and so there were a lot of late night panic phone calls to operators early on that yes, indeed, you are an essential worker, and yes, we need you to come to work. Very early on, when we witnessed the ridership declines on Coaster, we made a very quick decision that we needed to reduce service because we were going to be running a lot of empty trains, and those commuter rail trains cost a lot of money to operate. So we scaled back service on Coaster pretty rapidly from 22 trips a day down to 12 trips a day, and we completely eliminated weekend service. On the bus side, though, in order to maintain, we were concerned about social distancing as well. But we were also concerned about the ability of people to get to work, and we're in a largely suburban area. And so our service frequencies are not quite what other cities may have. And so we were concerned about people being able to get to work on time if we reduced service. But we did have a number of trippers that we operated during the school year that provided extra capacity. So we eliminated those school trippers pretty rapidly because obviously the schools were no longer in session, and we didn't have the need for that extra capacity provided by those school trippers. So for the most part, our fixed route service has remained largely intact. We did have a couple of scary instances where the number of active COVID cases got to the point where we thought we might lose service. We had contingency plans in place for that. Thankfully, we never had to activate them. But service adjustments was one of the ways that we were going to be able to notify passengers that we did have to cancel those trips. And like Olivia was saying, everybody had the goal of increasing ridership and putting more service out on the street at the beginning of 2020. We had some big expansion plans in mind for our commuter rail, and we were beginning to look at implementing microtransit in a couple of areas in late fall of 2020. Obviously, neither one of those things happened, and those plans have been sort of sitting on the shelf waiting for COVID to subside and allow us to increase service and hopefully increase ridership.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure that's a common theme amongst agencies is walking the line between still providing service, but providing sufficient social distancing and frequencies and just kind of staying on top of all of that. So Tara, I mean, I know your service area is a little bit different in terms of the ridership and the usage. So what were some of the things that you found to be a challenge last year?
Well, some of the challenges are going to be the same as North County and Metro. However, being by state, we sort of had to decide which state guidelines we're going to follow. Of course, we went with the more stringent of the two, usually California. We ended up requiring masks before it was a state mandate, just to make sure to keep everyone as safe as possible. We did have to suspend one of our very popular seasonal summer services called the East Shore Express. And that was around concerns for social distancing. We didn't think that we could maintain social distancing because it's such a popular route. Besides that, we did maintain service levels for essential workers in our community. We had to cancel a block or two when we just did not have adequate staff to cover all routes. And you know, looking forward, again, we want to grow our ridership as well. One of TTD's main objectives is to get people out of their personal vehicles to reduce congestion and VMTs and protect the natural resources of the lake.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thinking back to before lockdown and just wanting to get people out of their cars, I know that was a common goal of many transit agencies. And so it'll be interesting to see how things are progressing as we move forward. So I'm going to jump back into our presentation, and I want to talk a little bit about Swiftly service adjustments. And these three agencies have had the benefit of using this feature of Swiftly for the last few months. And, you know, I'm sure they're going to provide us some really great stories about their use case. So I found this picture. It's from a news story from the winter weather storm. This picture is actually in Chicago, but we've all been here standing at the bus stop, wondering if it's coming. It's cold or it's wet or it's hot, and you know, what's going on? Where's my bus? And that's kind of the crux behind the purpose of service adjustments. So Swiftly's service adjustments feature is intended to help transit agencies make modifications to their service on the fly so that internally their operations staff, operators, customer service know what's going on. Is a stop closed? Is a stop closed? Is a route on a detour due to a festival or construction? Is a vehicle not going to be able to complete its trip? And so with the service adjustments feature, you can cancel trips or blocks, you can close stops, you can indicate within your real-time data what's happening. And then not only can you indicate that internally, but you can push that information out to your passengers. So passengers aren't standing in the snow or the rain wondering if a vehicle is going to come. So it's a way to insert those adjustments into your real-time information so that your ops staff knows what's going on and your passengers know what's going on. So getting back to the use case for service adjustments, as I mentioned, Cap Metro and CTD and TTD have been using service adjustments for a few months, and we want to talk a little bit in detail about these uses. So Olivia, staying nimble has been an important focus area for Cap Metro, and in particular with the winter weather that happened this year, you were able to use our service adjustments. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, what you did, how you got through those crazy 3 days.
They were really 3 crazy days, but one of the things that worked very well for us was having the ability to shut down complete blocks. And then for 3 days, we did not operate service at all. And to turn off all the service, we went through the system before the service started, right before the service started, and was able to turn off blocks. It was timely, and it was pretty agile, and we were able to get ahead of notifying our customers that the service was not going to operate. So we sent out mass notifications, we incorporated the news media, and we triggered Swiftly as soon as possible so that those trips would show as not operating to the public.
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys canceled a tremendous amount of service on the fly, and how was it operationally for your staff? Did people have to come into the office, or what? Because the mobility, I'm sure, was an issue not only for the public but for your staff as well.
Because Swiftly is web-based, we were able to conduct that remotely. So several of us were up at 3 in the morning, and as soon as a trip went live, we would cancel those blocks as soon as they came up. And customers were able to see that once we said to the public that the service wasn't going to run, that none of the interfacing communications showed trips operating. So if you turned on our app, those trips wouldn't show. And if you used a different platform like Google, those trips wouldn't show.
Yeah. And it's my understanding you guys also are using the onboard app, which pushes information out to your operators as well. So that information just kind of cascaded through the network with whatever was working. People knew what was on and what wasn't on. So it's great to hear that there was some functionality that allowed you guys to operate at as much capacity as you could in that situation.
And then on the opposite side, when we actually started to implement service again later, we were able to cancel individual trips versus whole blocks so that the late starts were activated as well.
That's great. So let's jump to Damon. Let's talk about how NCTD is using service adjustments.
Yeah, so we largely use service adjustments on our railroads, Coaster and Sprinter. For those of you that have rail service, you know that it seems like it should be very predictable, but it's often very unpredictable because people do things that they shouldn't, and sometimes mechanical failures happen. And so Coaster is kind of interesting because Coaster actually operates on a corridor that is shared by not only the Coaster passenger trains, but also Amtrak Surfliner trains and Metrolink trains. And so that corridor sees upwards of 80 trains a day. 60 of those are passenger trains. And so you can imagine with 60 passenger trains, there's plenty of opportunities for things to happen along that 40-mile rail line. And so when we made the decision to cut down service, Amtrak did and Metro did as well. And so we needed a way to inform passengers that with the service that was remaining, since it was somewhat sporadic, passengers needed to know right away if there was some sort of incident that was going to affect their ability to get to work on time, because there wouldn't be, the other train running 15, 20, or 30 minutes behind it. That might be the only train left. And so we were able to use Swiftly whenever we had one of those train incidents, either a trespasser or a mechanical failure or a car stuck in a grade crossing. If we did have some sort of incident, it enabled us to notify people using the transit app, using the Google Transit, that trip simply wasn't going to run or was going to be significantly delayed. Prior to that, we would end up having to post a message out on Twitter and then manually log into every sign at every station if there was time and let people know that that train wasn't going to run. But you as a user, if you weren't using Twitter, you would have to wait until you got to the station and it was time for the train to leave, that then you would be notified, hey, this train isn't running, isn't going to come at all. So now with that Swiftly service adjustments, we can let people know ahead of time, hey, this train isn't running, find alternate transportation, or, we may be providing a bus bridge, and allow extra time.
I'm sure that saves your customer service folks a little bit of angry phone calls. So
oh yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. There's nothing worse than showing up at the stop and then finding out the train's not coming. So
correct.
Yeah. And so Tara, let's hear a little bit about Tahoe. It's just so interesting to hear what happens in the cold weather when service changes, because it's just issues compounded upon issues. So how has service adjustments helped you?
It can certainly be. The snow is always a love-hate, especially when you're in transit operations, because it creates some unique challenges. So we frequently have to adjust service due to weather and road conditions. So for example, we have a route 22, it operates along a mountain ridge over 7,000 feet. we frequently have to adjust that route during snowstorms. And that can be due to limited visibility, spun out cars, or just general snow accumulation. So we've actually designed a couple snow routes for that area, and they can be implemented, of course, when conditions are warranted. Before service adjustments, closing a stop could be rather tricky and labor intensive. We would have to send a road supervisor out, make sure that no one was waiting at the stops. If we felt that the stop was going to be closed for a prolonged period of time, they would attempt to post a physical notice on that stop. But as you can imagine, posting physical notices is a poor solution in a snowstorm. So the wind, the precip, and visibility all make it very unrealistic. So we also, of course, what has already been said, we want to notify riders before they leave the comfort of their home and begin walking to a bus stop, right? So now when we experience a snow event, we do have those early morning wake ups that Olivia mentioned, but we can easily close the stops and cancel trips from the office or from our home. And then we notify passengers with a rider alert. If any buses are in danger of missing connections, we modify those departure times. And then we've been able to cancel a block here and there if we have an operator shortage. So the service adjustment features have really opened up the lines of communication with our passengers, and increasing that ease of use encourages our choice riders. So we are hoping that it will have a good impact on ridership moving out of COVID.
Thanks for sharing that. So yeah, I mean, I'm hearing a few common themes of not only kind of making the decision of what needs to happen when that unexpected, when the operator doesn't show up or the weather happens and you can't run full service, but I'm seeing a theme definitely of keeping your riders in the know, pushing that information out to as many places as possible, as quickly as possible, because it just kind of keeps everything moving smoothly. So I'm really happy to hear that you guys have had a great experience using service adjustments, and we look forward to continuing to work with you on that. So let's talk a little bit now about the future. Obviously, things are opening back up in all of our states. People are getting vaccinated. Commuting may come back as a thing soon. So let's talk about what the next 6 to 12 months look like for your agencies. Damon, what are you looking forward to in the next year?
Well, we're looking forward to hopefully instituting some of those services that we had to put on hold. We're looking forward to adding more service to the weekdays and weekends on commuter rail. We're looking forward to instituting microtransit. And we're also going to be hopefully increasing frequencies on some of our most commonly used bus routes. So,
and Damon, this is your opportunity to brag. So if you have any cool projects coming up, like this is your time to plug them.
Yeah, well, and the other, sort of exciting news that we have is we're going to be starting our zero emissions bus pilot. So I've got 6 battery electric buses going to be delivered from New Flyer in October. So we'll be putting those into service hopefully in January or February of next year. And then we just got a whole slew of brand new commuter rail locomotives in anticipation of starting that extra service. And so those trains are already out there. And they're not cheap. So we're happy that we finally start getting to put those to use.
Very cool. And Tara, I know you're rolling out some electric vehicles soon too, right?
Yes, it's an exciting time. So we have a total of 7 coming in 2021, 4 electric cutaways and 3 Proterra coaches. We've partnered with a local community college to construct a charging infrastructure on their campus. We're definitely looking forward to this positive environmental step. And then we also know that there's probably a possibility of using service adjustments if we're not accurately calculating our charge time. So there's an opportunity there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I mean, it's very exciting for us too. As these electric vehicles come out in California and more agencies go electric, there's definitely opportunity to utilize this tool. Still for efficiency and to kind of keep everything operating smoothly. Olivia, other than the next snowstorm, what are you looking forward to in Texas?
Oh, wow. Things in Texas are looking very hopeful, very bright. The community voted in that referendum to expand service. So we're going to be expanding regular BRT and rail services. We have 12 operating electric buses, and we are ordering another 30 more. We are going to a zero emissions operations. Within the next 10 years, most of the Project Connect infrastructure will be completed as far as the projection of where we're going with the service, but we're also doing things to expand the accessibility of the service to more folks in the community by making some equitable fare adjustments, whereas if a customer uses the equivalent of a pass value and they're buying day passes every day, if this is $1 value, then the fare system will automatically issue them a monthly pass for the remainder of their trip, so they don't have to constantly pay for a day pass. We have all sorts of clean air initiatives inside the buses. We're using the lighting, ionic system to purify the air inside the bus. We are using bus infotainment to be coming soon, where we can provide customer information, advertisements, and current information to our customers while they ride the service. So lots of things, but with Swiftly, I am definitely looking forward to turn-by-turn directions and detour implementation on the onboard app.
So, yeah, we're looking forward to providing that to you. And I mean, I think in general, in addition to the trend of going green for transit agencies, definitely focusing on that customer experience has got to be at the top of the list, because now that people are able to work from home, commuting needs to be that much more convenient and that much more attractive. And I think that a lot of the initiatives you guys are putting forward are just showing that the customer experience is really going to be what brings people back into transit and, you know, making it a choice. So it's really great to hear what you guys have on the horizon. I am excited for Swiftly. As Olivia mentioned, we are still developing, we're still developing some features of service adjustments. Currently, the service adjustments allows for trip and block cancellation, as we discussed, and closing stops and kind of assigning vehicles for those unexpected added trips. But we are working on detours, which, you know, as we all know, for those expected events like festivals and sporting events when they come back, as well as the unexpected when you have construction or temporary road closures, just being able to reroute your vehicles, but also, again, push that information out to your passengers in real time so that they know the bus is on a detour, these stops are closed. And taking it one step forward with the Swiftly offerings, if you do have the onboard app, pushing that information out to the operator so they can see which stops to skip, to see the route that the detour is taking and get those directions. So we're really excited to push this out in the next couple of months and provide agencies the ability to draw their new paths and identify the skip stops and just kind of integrate that, the next thing, seamlessly into the system. So this is what we're looking forward to. And I hope that you guys have a lot of success with your future initiatives as well. So we are at the end of the formal discussion, and we want to open it up for Q&A. And I think we've had a few questions dropped into the chat. So I'm just going to toss some of these out to you all, my panelists, and jump in. So what ways, I know we talked a lot about pushing info out to the riders. So what are some of the ways that you notify your customers about missed trips and other interruptions? What are some of the platforms that you use? Damon, you unmuted yourself first, so why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah, so I mean, well, like I said, prior we used to use Twitter, and then if customers would call in, we could give them information. When we could get out there in time, we would post a sign over a closed bus stop if we knew in advance, or if it was something that was going to be happening for a while and we didn't know in advance, we would hurry and rush out there and go close the stop. Now with service adjustments, we can close those stops. And let people know that that stop is closed, and so then it's pushed out to Transit app, it's pushed out to Google Maps, it's pushed out to Apple Maps, and customer service, automatically knows when they're planning a trip for somebody, if they come upon that stop, it gives them a notification as well and swiftly that, hey, the stop's closed, you need to find another way. So that's it's certainly saved us a lot of headache. We still go out there and post a manual stop. A manual sign indicating that the stop is closed because not everybody has a smartphone. But it certainly helps, a majority of the people that are using those apps to plan their trips.
Olivia or Tara, you want to jump in and talk about how you share info with your customers?
Very similarly, we were using social media, Facebook and Twitter as a means to get information out to customers. We have since backed away from that, and we actually have a subscriber service where a customer can subscribe to their most frequently used routes to get information by text and or email. Our road supervisors still manually display stop closure signs at locations where we do not have electronic e-paper signs. We can do those remotely for as many for as many folks that are able to subscribe to the service. Our passenger alerts are real time. As soon as we know something is closed, we put that information out to subscribers, and we actually use Swiftly to close stops and then notify folks of alternate locations to pick up the bus. And it's usually along the detour route.
Great. And we did get a follow-up question about whether or not Swiftly generated information about stop closures proliferates to third-party apps that use GTF SRT data. So the answer to that question is yes. We work really closely with Transit, but we share this info with apps like Damon mentioned, Google Maps, Apple Maps, or whatever app or mechanism the agency uses. So, a lot of agencies build these types of notification apps in-house. So yes, we can push that out to any third-party app. Let's see, another question we've got is any agency using the service adjustments to add frequency or service on the fly? And I believe that, yep, Olivia, you mentioned that. So you want to talk a little bit about how you add service?
So when we look at ridership patterns, we try to validate ridership patterns with live look-ins, and we have a plan to where we add trips that are ahead of the trip that was that is anticipated to be loaded. So we give customers who arrive at the stop maybe 2 to 5 minutes earlier than the bus is scheduled to arrive the opportunity to board sooner, get those lighter loads so that when the regularly scheduled trip comes along, the load is not as heavy. So we add those trips all the time. As long as we have the resources to supplement the trips, it's a daily occurrence.
Yeah, that sounds very reasonable. And yeah, with the ridership information, it becomes that much easier to kind of make that decision and then quickly add some service into the network. So looks like we've got time for one more question. So someone asked if any of that service is running strictly on headways and not schedule based. And I think, again, Olivia, you want to talk about how you're using your headway based service?
So our bus rapid transit service is headway based, and it's scheduled to run either in 10, 15, or 20-minute intervals. And the way that works is the MDT notifies the driver of the distance they are from the vehicle ahead of them. So that allows the operator the opportunity to make decisions on speed and boarding times. And then the buses that are equipped with the onboard app will provide similar information, but it's colorful, it's in real time, and it's attractive to the eye. So it prompts the driver quicker to continuously look at how far they are from their leader, and they can make service modifications. So maybe they need to burn a light, or just hold maybe 30 more seconds before they depart or something, to burn a little time to allow them even spacing. And sometimes when a trip is missing, then they'll adjust back or forth, particularly on the rapid transit service that is on 10-minute headways. And you can kind of buffer that and make an adjustment to 15 minutes so that customers don't feel the loss of the block that's missing.
That's a great explanation. So yeah, I mean, it's really great to hear about, obviously 2020 was kind of a crazy year for everyone. And it's always really interesting to hear how transit agencies have managed to kind of keep above water, continue to provide excellent service. And we're really happy at Swiftly that you've found value in this tool that we've provided to, deal with all of these crazy unexpected things that have happened. And so to everyone out there that's watching this webinar, if you have any more questions, if you want to learn more, I know some people want to see service adjustments in action, but there's an hour is not enough time to go through all of the things that we could do with Swiftly. I strongly encourage you to visit our website here on the slide, goswift.ly. I really want to thank Olivia, Damon, and Tara again for your time and for sharing your stories with us. And yeah, definitely feel free to find us at our website if you have any more questions or if you want to learn more. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.